What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be going over some new teasers for The Flash Season 8. So yeah, guys, let's just get right into it. So to start things off, we have some new episode titles for episodes 12 through 16 of this season. I didn't think they would release so many episode titles, but these titles look very, very interesting. So just to refresh you guys, episodes 10 and 11. Episode 10 is titled Reckless. Episode 11 is titled Resurrection. That's the episode that Ronnie Raymond is confirmed to return in episode 11. But going off of that, episode 12 is titled Death Rises. Episode 13 titled Death Falls. Episode 14, Funeral for a Friend. Episode 15, Into the Still Force. And then episode 16 is The Curious Case of Bartholomew Allen. So starting off, we're going to talk about episode 12 titled Death Rises. Now, we know for episode 11, as I just said, Ronnie Raymond is confirmed to be in that episode. For episode 12, I don't believe he's confirmed to be in that one. We know he's going to be in one other episode this season. Of course, I could be wrong on him not being confirmed to be in episode 12, but people are really starting to think that he'll be in episode 12. So if this is going to be a Ronnie Raymond episode, Death Rises, obviously Resurrection is the title of episode 11, so it definitely makes sense that, you know, Ronnie Raymond, he's obviously dead. So if episode 11 is titled Resurrection and he's in it, it could definitely mean that he got resurrected. Episode 12 titled Death Rises, this could mean tons of different things. Obviously, some people have thought Red Death could be in this episode. I personally don't think so, just based off the fact that, you know, there hasn't been any teasers, there's been no leaks in regard to that. So I'm going to say Red Death is not really going to be a part of this season, unfortunately. Now, we also know that THAWNE is confirmed to return for the season in a few episodes, so could this be the episode where he returns in? Obviously, Eddie is also dead, so him being alive in this episode would definitely fit the title of Death Rises. I think that'd be really cool if we just saw a bunch of dead characters come back to life. And guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe THAWNE's return this season, besides episode 6, is confirmed to be in present day. Like I said, please correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I believe that's confirmed. So that's going to be really interesting to see, exactly what's going to happen with that. So yeah, episode 12 titled Death Rises goes into episode 13 titled Death Falls. Now this is definitely, I'm really thinking this is going to be like a sort of a two-part episode, sort of like The Temptation of Barry Allen back in season 6, or you had the Grodd little two-part episode in season 3, or the Earth 2 two-part episode type thing in season 2. You guys know all that stuff. So I definitely think this could be somewhat of what that is. Obviously, I'm not 100% sure if this is going to still be in this current graphic novel with the Black Flame, but I'm thinking it should at least have a little bit of a tie to it, so I think this is going to be interesting. But Death Rises and Death Falls, this could be all these old characters coming back to life in episode 12, but then they die once again in episode 13 or something along those lines. I think that's definitely possible. But now, guys, on to episode 14 titled Funeral for a Friend. Now, I think this is a very interesting episode. Obviously, in episodes 12 and 13 titled Death Rises and Death Falls, and then episode 14 titled Funeral for a Friend, these three episodes I think could all be connected. What I think could be happening is in Death Rises, we could see characters like THAWNE, Ronnie Raymond that were once dead. We could see those characters return. Episode 13, we could see them die somehow. Maybe they join Team Flash once again, but then they both like heroically die or something like that. Episode 14, Funeral for a Friend, that maybe it's both their funerals. We never actually saw like a real funeral for Ronnie or for Eddie, so I think that's definitely possible. Now, let's say that this funeral's not going to be for Eddie or Ronnie. Let's say it's somebody on Team Flash. I think that would be really interesting. Now, the characters that I don't think will have this funeral, obviously Barry, Iris, they're not going to have this funeral. I wouldn't assume Cecile would have this funeral, but I would say that she's probably the second most likely to have this funeral. As much as I really don't like Allegra, she does have a role in the show, so I really don't think that she would have this funeral either. Chester, I think, he's had a pretty big storyline so far in this Black Flame stuff, so I think it would be interesting if he ended up dying, but I actually kind of like Chester as a character, so I really don't think he would end up dying. Caitlin, she's been on the show forever. She's not going to die. I really would not. It would be unbelievable if Caitlin died, in my opinion. But the character that I think is most likely to die in this scenario is Frost. I really don't think she really has a role in the show, because Caitlin and Frost are played by the same actress, obviously Danielle Panabaker, and Caitlin is the much better character, in my opinion, at least. I really am not a fan of Frost, and a lot of people aren't either. Obviously, Frost and Caitlin separated. I thought ever since then they would just find a way to get Frost out of the show, but apparently not. So I think this could definitely be that happening if it's not like a funeral for somebody like Eddie and Ronnie, like I said earlier. Now, we did already know that somebody was probably going to die. I think we saw some set photos of Iris and Allegra standing in front of a grave. So that did make me think that, maybe this death is related to Team Citizen. I think that's definitely possible. I don't know exactly who that would be, because Iris and Allegra are like the only relevant Citizen characters. So yeah, I guess we're just going to have to find out who exactly this death is going to be. So guys, we have a couple of episode titles left to break down, and these two might be the most interesting. So episode 15 is titled Into the Still Force. Now keep in mind, guys, this episode right here is the episode where we saw those set photos of that newspaper that said Zoom and Godspeed destroy Central City. So how exactly could that work in this episode? Now, Into the Still Force, of course, that reminds me of the older episodes where Barry would go into the Speed Force, like when he went in to get Wally West, who was lost in the Speed Force. I think that could be the same thing here, maybe with Iris. Maybe Barry goes into the Still Force because Iris is lost in the Speed Force. I think that would actually, or the Still Force rather, I think that would be pretty interesting right there. And keep in mind, the Still Force, it can like displace things throughout time. So maybe that's how Zoom and Godspeed somehow end up in the same time, is they were displaced into the same time by the Still Force. You guys can look back at episode 6 of season 7 and see, all those different things from different eras displayed in different times. Obviously in that one episode with Cisco and Chester going on that time travel adventure. So yeah, Into the Still Force looks like a pretty interesting episode. Now guys, Nora is also confirmed to be in this episode, or XS, whatever you want to call her. So I think it'd be pretty interesting if she went into the Still Force with Barry, sort of like the 100th episode where they went back to all those different times with all those different villains. I think that'd be pretty cool. But yeah, I'm really excited to see if there's going to be this Godspeed and Zoom team up. That would be really cool. But anyways, now guys, moving on to episode 16, titled The Curious Case of Bartholomew Allen. Now this episode I think is definitely going to be a little bit more personal for Barry, which could mean that this could revolve around Barry versus the Reverse Flash. Obviously the Reverse Flash is supposed to have a little storyline toward the end of the season, so I definitely think that this could be that storyline starting up, or maybe episode 15 would be that storyline starting up. Obviously there's this Legion of Zoom teaser going on with Reverse Flash in the comics, of course, recruiting a bunch of old classic Flash villains to go up against the Flash. So if something like that was happening here as well with the Reverse Flash, I think that could also be going into this storyline. Also earlier in the season, if you guys remember, they teased a little bit more about that Reverse Flash origin stuff, so I think they could definitely do a little bit more of that here. Maybe they actually play out this scene that Reverse Flash talked about back in episode 5, I believe it was, where he talked about Barry going back and basically stealing his thunder, or going to the future I should say, and stealing his thunder, and that's basically why the Reverse Flash hates Barry. Of course, there's other reasons that were explained in previous seasons, but that's just another circumstance that led to the Reverse Flash being the Reverse Flash and being the main villain or the main antagonist of the Flash. But yeah, guys, with these episode titles coming out, I'm actually really looking forward to the rest of the season. Of course, with all these returning characters, Ronnie, Eddie, and potentially some other characters, Godspeed and Zoom, all that's going to be great to see. I'm really excited for what else they've got for us. Hopefully, this Black Flame storyline ends up being a good one. The episode 10 trailer I could also break down. However, there's just not a lot of new information. It's just basically Barry and Frost. We see them, devising a plan to go up against the Black Flame. And of course, I'm also excited about the Reverse Flash stuff that's going to be going on. But as always, guys, make sure you comment below your theories on all of these episode titles and what you guys think could be going on in these episodes. And I'll see you guys in the next video.